The day Anna and Henry got engaged, the weather was bleak. A light snow was falling. We have an old saying where I'm from, snow for a wedding, a shroud for a burying. It's a bad omen. Henry was a little on edge, worried I might cause a scene. Anna rested a hand on his shoulder, her voice soft. Just send Leo to Singapore, she said, and tell him not to come back. Just like that, with one simple sentence, she had me shipped off to another country, all because she was afraid I'd ruin her engagement party. Everyone thought I wouldn't agree. They expected me to cry, to throw a fit, to destroy everything in my path. But I didn't. I packed my bags, just as Anna wanted, and left for Singapore alone. She was free to find her match, and I would find mine. We were like fallen petals on a flowing stream, indifferent to each other's fate. Everyone in our circle knew I was in love with Anna. I vaguely remember I was only 16 the first time I confessed my feelings to her. Yes, it was at my 16th birthday party. Anna was there. My father teased me, my Leo is 16 now. He's a young man. My friends ribbed me too. In the warm candlelight, Anna's face was like polished jade. The faint scent of sandalwood tickled my senses. My head felt hot. I'd also been playing grown-up at the party and had a little to drink. It was just a wine cooler with barely any alcohol, but it was enough to make me feel buzzed, my head swimming. Dad, I announced I'm a man now. I'm going to marry Anna. The hall seemed to go quiet for a moment. Then, everyone burst out laughing. Even my father's eyes crinkled with amusement, his smile wide in the candlelight. Anna just laughed and ruffled my hair, like I was a kitten. You little thing, she said. You're too young to be talking about love. Her voice was laced with affection, her warm breath tickling my ear. But my happiness, it seemed, ended at 16. That winter, my parents died in a car crash. I was the only survivor. My mother, who had shielded me with her body, had given me the chance to live. Maybe it was the crash, or maybe it was the overwhelming grief and panic, but when I woke up, parts of my memory were gone. When I came to, the only person by my side was Anna. She held me, comforted me. Leo, it's okay, she said. It's okay. You still have me. She stroked my head, just like always, as if I were a cat. I felt like someone drowning in a frozen river, clinging to a single piece of straw, terrified to let go. I greedily soaked up every ounce of warmth from her, trying to fend off the winter's chill. If my confession at 16 was just a reckless, adolescent impulse, a moment of heat to the head, it wasn't something I had thought through. But after 16, every time I told Anna I loved her, I was serious. The year I turned 18, she was 27, and her family was pressuring her to get married. At the time, I had just gotten my acceptance letter from college. I ran to tell her the good news, only to find her on the phone, her voice gentle as she chatted with some guy. I clutched the acceptance letter in my hand, my body tense. I didn't know why I was so nervous. Oh, it wasn't just nerves. It was panic. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. She must have noticed something was off, because she hung up the phone and looked at me with a frown. Leo, what's wrong? Are you feeling okay? I forced down the chaotic thoughts racing through my mind and asked in a low voice, Are you dating someone, Anna? Am I going to have a brother-in-law? Anna hesitated for a moment before answering. Yes. My family introduced us at a party. We're thinking of seeing where it goes. It's just a family merger, you know how it is. As she spoke, she watched my expression carefully. It seemed like she really cared about me. I don't know if that was just a delusion she let me have. I knew Anna liked me. She'd liked me ever since I first told her I loved her at 16. But I don't think she ever considered marrying me. After all, there was a 9-year age gap between us. The year I turned 16, after my parents died in the accident, my great-aunt Valerie, who lived in Singapore, wanted to take me in. My family didn't have many other relatives. And at 16, I was still a minor and needed a legal guardian. My aunt said she was the most suitable choice. Singapore was warm, and life was good there. But Anna went behind my back and refused for me. She told Valerie, Ms. Lin, Leo is like a wounded kitten right now. Don't you think moving him to a completely new place would be a bad idea? I've known him since he was a baby. He depends on me a lot. Please let me take care of him. After thinking it over, Valerie agreed. Before she left, she told me, "Leo, if you need anything, just call your aunt." I forced a smile. My dad always said that when people show you kindness, you should smile back. But for some reason, the tears just kept streaming down my face. I often woke up crying from nightmares, with no sense of security in the real world. My only anchor was Anna. I thought I would follow her around like a little shadow for the rest of my life. But that summer, when I was 18, I suddenly felt like I was about to lose her. Just as the car crash had stolen my parents, some man was going to come and rip her completely out of my life. The wounds that had just started to heal were suddenly torn open, bleeding again. A sharp pain pricked at my heart. But I couldn't be selfish. I should be happy for Anna. So, I swallowed my bitterness and put on a smile. "Congratulations, Anna. And guess what? I got into college. I'm going to be a college student. I'm 18 this year." I acted cheerful, practically bouncing in front of her. Sunlight poured in through the large French windows, shimmering like gold. It seemed to cast a golden halo around Anna's face. Summer sunlight was so different from the winter sun. A hazy thought drifted into my mind. If it was just a merger between two powerful families, why couldn't it be me? I was 18, an adult. Of course, I quickly buried that thought deep down. You can work the fields all day under the hot sun, but it's hard work. It turns out everyone has a toxic weed in their heart that they can never truly pull out. The guy she met at the party, the one her family introduced her to, never really became a part of her life. Before their relationship could even blossom, it withered and died. I breathed a sigh of relief. I felt like a prisoner on death row who'd just been granted a stay of execution. The weight on my chest lifted, if only by an inch. When Anna dropped me off at college, the bodyguards carried my luggage inside for me. I took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. "Anna, if men and women all have to get married when they reach a certain age, couldn't we also? If my confession at 16 was a joke, then my confession at 18 was something I had thought about long and hard. I asked myself again and again, do I really love Anna? Was it just dependence after my family was shattered? Or was it real romantic love? At 18, I was still naive about relationships, but I faced my true feelings. I loved Anna, and Anna, she loved me too. I had accidentally noticed the way she looked at me was no longer just the affection one has for a little boy. There was a hint of something more, a quiet, lingering emotion in her eyes. Sometimes, when our eyes met, she would quickly look away, flustered. I had hoped she would be the one to confess. I had hinted at it once, twice, 3 times, but Anna, who was usually so smart, acted like she didn't understand, always avoiding the topic. I knew I couldn't wait any longer. If I kept waiting, this fragile relationship of ours, where we never broke through that final barrier, might just fade away. After all, her family was constantly pushing her to go on dates, to get married. So, I looked down and handed her the folded origami crane. On that crane, I had written Anna's name over and over again in different colors, fonts, and sizes. Every stroke was a testament to my affection for her. "Anna, I love you." My voice was as quiet as a mosquito's buzz. As soon as I said it, a blush crept up my cheeks, making me look like I was drunk. I forced myself to look up and meet her gaze, hoping for a nod. Then, she would kiss me like a heroine in a movie. But she remained silent. It was so awkward. God knows how much courage it took for me to pour my heart out to her. "Leo, you're still young," Anna stammered. "You don't understand what love is yet." "Too young?" The law in my country clearly states that at 18 you're an adult, responsible for all your actions. "But I can wait for you to grow up," Anna said suddenly. In an instant, my face broke into a radiant smile. Under the late summer sun, I felt as light and joyful as a butterfly. Anna just watched me smile, her eyes filled with a familiar affection. I was so happy. That evening, I called my aunt. My Aunt Valerie was the same age as Anna, 27, also at the age for settling down. She was a wealthy businesswoman in Southeast Asia with a massive fortune. I'd once heard that some prince was in love with her. "Aunt Valerie, I have a girlfriend," I said into the phone, my voice full of joy. Is that so? She chuckled. Her voice was deep and pleasant, with a certain calmness that came with age. Maybe because my aunt and Anna were the same age, both successful women from wealthy families, I couldn't help but compare them. But my aunt always seemed to carry a subtle, undefined sadness. So young, yet she had a world-weary air about her. Anna was different. She was bright, dazzling, and radiant. Congratulations, Leo, Valerie said with a smile. When are you going to bring your girlfriend over for me to meet? I need to give her my stamp of approval. You know her, Aunt Valerie. It's Anna. The other end of the line went silent for a moment. Leo, she finally said, did she agree to marry you? I was taken aback. I didn't understand why my aunt would ask that. It wasn't until 3 years later, when I moved to Singapore, that I finally understood her question. I stomped my foot. Aunt Valerie, we just started dating. Why are you already talking about marriage? Ha, Valerie laughed, trying to sound casual. Even so, I should probably start preparing your wedding gift. My face turned red again, but my heart was filled with sweetness. Then I remembered my aunt's own love life. Aunt Valerie, I asked curiously, you're the same age as Anna. Do you have a boyfriend? Not yet, Valerie said. Then do you have a crush on anyone? I pressed. The line was silent for a long time, and then she hung up. Anna and I were dating. I happily posted about it on my social feed. Anna even commented, posting a picture of the origami crane with her name written on it 100 times. The caption read, "My boy is all grown up." I was so happy during that time. Felt like the air was filled with the scent of roses. Anna would send me all sorts of expensive gifts, drive to school to pick me up herself, and shower me with one romantic gesture after another. It was exactly like the love I had always dreamed of. I was so happy. My classmates all envied me. They said I was a prince living in a fairy tale. I thought so, too. At the end of the year, my Aunt Valerie came back. It was only then that I learned Anna's family was facing a major financial crisis. Their seaport project had stalled. Anna had been running around trying to secure investments, but she'd failed every time. Her once mighty business empire was teetering on the brink of collapse. Valerie had come back with money to invest, but the negotiations were tough. I watched as my aunt's team haggled with Anna over every percentage of equity, over every single word in the contract. Anna was furious, and I was too. I wanted to talk to my aunt to persuade her. I followed her when she went to the restroom. I saw my aunt, usually so elegant and composed, take off her glasses and lean over the sink, throwing up. The words I had prepared got stuck in my throat. I just felt this heavy weight in my chest. Is money really that important? Did she have to push herself this hard just for a business deal? I was still young and didn't understand the complexities of the business world, so I said what I was thinking. My aunt washed her hands, put her glasses back on to hide the weariness in her eyes, and looked at me through the mirror. "Leo," she asked, "are you happy with her?" I nodded emphatically. "As long as you're happy." She turned around and reached out to touch my face. I dodged her hand. My aunt's hand hung in the air, suspended in an awkward silence. I felt bad and tried to explain in a low voice, "Aunt Valerie, I'm older now. We should keep some distance." She seemed to understand and smiled. "Leo really has grown up. You're a young man now." That winter, my aunt asked me if I wanted to move into her villa in Boston. "Leo, you're a Keller man," she said. "You're an adult now. You don't need a guardian, and you don't need to live under someone else's roof, dependent on their charity. Move out. It'll be quiet and you'll have your freedom. Wouldn't that be nice?" I shook my head. If I moved out, I wouldn't be able to see Anna all the time. We were dating. Distance makes the heart grow fonder. She tried again, but I still refused. At 18, I didn't understand business and I didn't understand love. It wasn't until New Year's Eve, when my aunt left on her private jet with her bodyguards and entourage, that I heard from others what had really happened. Anna had used me to trick her into coming back to invest in the seaport project. She had demanded $1 billion from Valerie, but was stingy with the equity she offered in return. My aunt had almost walked out on the spot. But for my sake, she swallowed her pride and compromised. That New Year's Eve, it snowed in Boston. Not heavily, just a light, scattered flurry that cast a pale, weak glow on the festive lights of the city. I hugged my knees and sat on the floor, looking out the window. I listened to the cheerful chatter from the New Year's Eve special on TV. Tears streamed silently down my face. For the first time, I realized that love could be just another part of a financial transaction. On New Year's Day, Anna, drunk and red-eyed, burst into my room. She wrapped her arms around me and covered my face with frantic kisses. "Leo, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." She held me tight, repeating "I'm sorry" over and over again. I didn't quite understand her apology. Was she sorry for using our relationship to swindle my aunt's investment? Or was she sorry for embarrassing my aunt and disregarding our connection? It seemed like neither. She had simply used me to get an investment. That was all. Realizing this, my head spun, and an empty ache filled my chest. Pushed her away. "Anna, if this was all just for my aunt's investment, the Seaport project is up and running now. Let's break up." The words felt like acid in my mouth. I tried to hold it together to control myself, but tears streamed down my face like a broken faucet. I was terrified. I was terrified she would nod and say, "Fine, Leo, let's break up." She didn't. She just held me, a little too tightly. After a long time, she finally said, "Leo, I love you. I love you so much." But that's not what she told other people. Before the winter solstice, the Sterling family hosted a small party, mostly for close acquaintances. Among them were some of my parents' friends. Mr. Peterson took the opportunity to ask Anna, "Miss Sterling, when are you planning to get married?" Anna was stunned. She looked at him in complete shock. Everyone there was sharp. After a moment of confusion, Mr. Peterson, probably out of respect for his old friendship with my father, pressed on. "Anna, aren't you dating Leo? Why not finalize things while it's the holidays? I know Leo's still young, but you could get engaged first." I was even planning on chipping in for a wedding gift. It was an old custom where we're from. When someone gets married, relatives and close family friends contribute a little something. A way of adding to the celebration. Anna just smiled and said, "Mr. Peterson, Leo's still a kid. What does he know about love? He just impulsively confessed to me. I was afraid of hurting his feelings if I rejected him. It doesn't count." She even said that one day I would meet someone I truly loved, that she only saw me as a little brother. The smile on Mr. Peterson's face slowly faded, but he didn't say anything else. Later, he found me and said, his voice full of concern, "Leo, Anna is a wonderful person, but her heart isn't with you." I nodded obediently and saw Mr. Peterson off. He looked at me and sighed softly. I understood. He was just my father's good friend, and out of respect for their friendship, he was trying to warn me, to protect me from getting hurt. I told myself, "You're 18 now, you're an adult. You have to be sensible. You have to know right from wrong." Did Anna love me? The image of my aunt, looking utterly defeated in the restroom, flashed through my mind again. If she cared about my feelings, she wouldn't have humiliated my aunt like that. If she cared about my feelings, she wouldn't have used our love to trick my aunt into investing. But love is like an ocean. It sweeps over you, drowning all reason and sense. Anna, she was the toxic weed in the garden of my heart. I couldn't pull her out. I could only let her grow wild, covering every inch of fertile soil, leaving no room for anything else. I don't know how I found the courage to suggest breaking up. I thought, if she agrees, I'll turn around and walk away immediately. I'll use time to heal the wounds left by uprooting that weed, even if it leaves me bleeding. But she said she loved me so much, and I loved it. The joy was like the richest fertilizer, nourishing the seeds of love to take root in fertile ground. I thought love meant giving everything, holding nothing back. But Anna's love, it seemed, had room for other things. One spring evening, as dusk settled, a storm rolled in, the air thick with moisture. The ground outside the walls was littered with fallen blossoms of every color. New green leaves covered the branches, while the fallen red petals were trampled into the mud below. When Anna came home, she had a boy with her. He had a handsome, fair face and a tall, slender frame. Dressed in an elegant cream-colored casual suit, He looked exceptionally clean-cut and charming. His arm was linked with Anna's so naturally, so casually, as if it were the most normal thing in the world, as if they had spent countless days and nights leaning on each other, developing an intimacy I couldn't comprehend. I twisted my fingers, standing on the stairs. I didn't run to her joyfully like I usually did. I even opened my mouth to call her name, but the word Anna, which I had called her since I was a child, got stuck in my throat. Couldn't make a sound. A heavy feeling coiled in my chest, and I couldn't breathe. Anna's gaze reluctantly shifted from the boy to me. "Leo, this is Henry," she said, introducing him. The boy shyly hid behind her. Anna naturally put an arm around his waist, gently pushing him forward. She handled him with the care one would reserve for a priceless piece of porcelain. In her eyes, I saw the threads of a deep, passionate affection. "Henry," she told me, "he's a student I'm sponsoring." I tried to control my emotions and forced a smile at Henry. "Henry." Henry seemed to lose some of his shyness. He smiled back at me and bowed. "I'll be in your care from now on, Mr. Keller." Beside him, Anna's voice held a hint of amusement. "What, Mr. Keller? Just call him Leo. He's like a little stray cat." I pressed my lips together but said nothing. "Leo, get Henry settled in," Anna told me. I couldn't hide my shock. "Mr. Johnson is staying here?" I asked, stunned. I disliked this person from the bottom of my heart. I had assumed Anna just brought him home for a visit. Anna wrapped a protective arm around Henry and nodded. "Yes, Henry will be living with us from now on, just like you. I've transferred him to your school so you'll have some company." Henry was given the room next to mine. That night, he knocked on my door. "Mr. Keller, do you hate me?" he asked, standing at the door in a silk robe, the collar slightly open, a wronged expression on his face. I didn't know how to answer that, so I chose my words carefully. No one in love wants to see their partner with a close friend of the opposite sex. Henry started talking on his own. "Mr. Keller, my family is poor. My parents favor my younger brother. I just couldn't take it anymore. If Anna hadn't sponsored me, I would have had nowhere to go. Please don't kick me out, okay?" Before I could say anything, he suddenly dropped to his knees and grabbed my ankle. I instinctively tried to pull away, but he stumbled and fell to the floor. "Leo, what are you doing?" Before I could process what had happened, I heard Anna's angry voice. I looked up, stunned, to see Anna standing there. She had never, ever yelled at me like that. Henry was sobbing on the floor, gasping for breath. When Anna went to help him up, he threw his arms around her. "Anna, I'm so sorry. Please don't blame Mr. Keller. It's my fault. I shouldn't have been so clueless and made him angry. I shouldn't be living here. I'm just trash. I don't deserve this." He deliberately exposed a large bruise on his arm for Anna to see. "Leo, apologize." Anna roared at me. "You hit Henry?" I pressed my lips together, walked into my room, and slammed the door shut. Couldn't believe it. This frame-up was so clumsy. How could Anna not see through it? I hadn't done anything wrong. Why should I apologize? My initial hostility towards Henry was just a bit of jealousy, a bit of bitterness. I didn't hate him. After all, there's nothing wrong with loving someone. I could love Anna, and so could he. I couldn't selfishly deny him that right. But after he framed me like this, I was truly disgusted by him. I thought he had a serious character problem. The next day, I found an opportunity to talk to Anna and clear things up. She seemed very busy and had lost her usual patience with me. In fact, she was downright irritable. "Leo, you're rambling. What is it you're trying to say?" I was stunned that she would use the word rambling to describe me. I counted. We had only exchanged a few sentences. Not even 10, right? I was just trying to tell her the truth about what happened that night. Did she not want to listen to me? Or did she not want to hear anything negative about Henry? When that thought crossed my mind, my heart started to pound uncontrollably. Before I could say another word, Anna dismissed me. "Leo, Henry is simple and kind. He's not manipulative like you. I won't have you slandering him like this. If you really don't like him, you can move out." I looked up at Anna, the older sister figure from my childhood who had protected and loved me, who had held me in her arms after my parents died. The person who had given me warmth was now a stranger, and it hurt. Anna, are you kicking me out? My voice was hoarse when I spoke. I turned to leave. My upbringing wouldn't allow me to pull the same stunts as Henry, nor would I beg her to let me stay. But suddenly, Anna hugged me from behind. Leo, no, I was wrong. She apologized to me. She said, Henry is just a kid I'm sponsoring. He's always been innocent. I know you're just jealous, Leo. It's okay, I get it. Then she added with a sarcastic laugh, Leo, you don't really think I could marry him, do you? Be a good boy and stop making a scene. She held me by the waist, whispering in my ear. My heart instantly softened. Anna loves me, I told myself. She's just sponsoring Henry. Even though I still didn't like Henry, I would try to like what Anna liked. I would try to get along with the people she liked, no matter how much I disliked them. I think I was finally starting to understand what love my dog really meant. But sometimes, getting along with people isn't just about not starting trouble. It was early fall and the weather was no longer so hot. On Friday afternoon, I ran into Henry in the restroom. He called out to me. I had no choice but to stop. He looked at me with a playful smile. Leo, isn't it exhausting to live like this? You clearly hate me, despise me. You're burning with jealousy, but you have to pretend you're not. I frowned slightly. Yes, I disliked him, but I wasn't jealous of him. So I said it directly, Henry, Anna is sponsoring you. You should take this opportunity to study hard and stop causing trouble. He moved closer, almost pressing his face against mine. The strong scent of his cologne filled my nostrils, and I couldn't help but take a step back. I wanted to tell him that Anna had a sensitive nose and couldn't stand such strong, pungent perfumes. But in the end, I said nothing. He was just a boy Anna was sponsoring. It had nothing to do with me, and nothing to do with her, right? Leo, do you think I'm fit to be the man of the Sterling house? Henry suddenly asked me. A sudden wave of fear washed over me. Henry and Anna? How could that be possible? For some reason, a vague sense of panic gripped my heart. The love I had so carefully built with Anna felt like it had been breached. Henry took a pair of scissors out of his bag and brandished them at me. I jumped back in shock. Henry, what are you doing? I'm warning you. Don't do anything crazy. Henry laughed like a madman. Leo, I've been putting up with you for a long time. Just because your parents are dead, what gives you the right to live in the Sterling house? How dare you shamelessly seduce Anna? As he spoke, he grabbed his own dark hair and started snipping at it with the scissors, letting the pieces fall to the floor. Then, he took the scissors and dragged them across his neck and face. Bloody scratches bloomed on his fair skin, as red and vivid as the roses on campus. Leo, have you figured out how you're going to explain this to Anna? As he said this, he shoved the scissors into my hand. My palm felt scorched and I quickly dropped them. Maniac. This guy was a complete maniac. Ha 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 ha. Henry pointed at me, laughing hysterically. Leo, I am going to marry Anna. I'm so sick of being poor. I'll do whatever it takes to have her, and you're destined to fail. With that, he turned on the faucet and rinsed his head under the cold water. I ran. I fled in a complete panic. Once I was outside, I pulled out my phone and called Anna. This time, I wasn't going to let him frame me again. Anna answered quickly, and I rushed to explain what had happened. At the end, I added, Anna, you have to believe me. Henry cut himself. Leo, where is he now? Anna yelled into the phone. Probably still in the bathroom, I said honestly. I had no idea what Henry would do next. The line went dead. That night, I was anxious and lost. I needed someone to talk to. The first person I thought of was Anna's mother. Mrs. Sterling was a good person. After my parents passed away and Anna brought me home, she treated me like her own son. But she also liked Henry. The first time she met him, she had praised him. Such a well-behaved boy and so handsome. I had a few other good friends, but they were all close with Anna, and they all knew I was in love with her. Would they believe me? For some reason, I thought of my aunt. When I called Valerie, she picked up right away. Leo, what's wrong? She asked. I told her everything about Henry. Aunt Valerie, how can someone be so evil? I couldn't understand it. There was nothing wrong with Henry loving Anna. Even though everyone in our circle knew that Anna and I were a couple. Even people like Mr. Peterson were ready to contribute to our wedding. Knowingly being the other man was shameful, but I believed there was nothing wrong with loving someone. But did loving someone give you the right to act so recklessly, to frame others with such clumsy tactics? There was a long silence on the phone before my aunt finally spoke. Leo, the Seaport project needs more funding. I didn't know if I was confused or if my aunt was. The Seaport project was Anna's project. If it needed more funding, that was her problem. What did it have to do with me? Or for that matter, what did it have to do with Henry? Miss Sterling proposed that you use the assets your parents left you to invest. I refused. My aunt's voice came through the phone. Auntie, I understand, I said in a low voice. Valerie didn't hang up, just remained silent. The silence on the line was unnerving. My heart, which had been so full of love, had no room to consider anything else. My not-so-brilliant mind didn't understand the treacherous world of business. I lived in my own little paradise, in an ivory tower of fairy tales. Now, my aunt had opened a window in my ivory tower, giving me a glimpse of the dark and terrifying world outside. Leo, if you're looking for someone to date, why does it have to be Anna? Valerie asked tentatively. The call ended. All that was left was the dial tone, a harsh, unpleasant sound. Then even that was gone. The shadow of my aunt slowly began to creep in. The vines of love in my heart, which had left no room for anything else, now seemed to have a little extra space. I understood my aunt. I just didn't understand business or anything else, but I was extremely perceptive and sensitive. Just like the first time I saw Henry, I saw the threads of affection in Anna's eyes. That night, neither Henry nor Anna came home. The next day, Anna dragged me to the hospital and demanded I apologize to Henry. I refused. Standing in the hospital, looking at Henry lying weakly in bed, his disheveled hair falling across his pale face, he looked as fragile as a delicate rose. I suddenly became very curious. Anna had always said that Henry was a poor student she was sponsoring. When I was a child, I used to go with my parents to the mountains to help poor students. Even the 7- and 8-year-old children had dark, rough skin, weathered by the elements and a hard life. At such a young age, they all bore the scars of time, their hands calloused and stained with blood. But Henry, who was my age, 19, was as tender as a spring onion, handsome and clean. His hands were fair and soft, his fingers like jade. This was a poor student? I had been pampered by my parents my whole life, yet my hands still bore the marks of holding a pen from learning to draw and write. And he was so pristine. Leo, apologize. Anna's voice snapped in my ear. Just like that night, she didn't give me a chance to explain. Even a death row inmate gets a chance to defend himself in court, but I didn't even get that. I'm not apologizing. I looked up, raised an eyebrow, and shot a threatening glance at Henry. Why should I apologize for something I didn't do? Henry, are you having fun putting on this little show? Henry curled up on his pillow and started sobbing. Mr. Keller, how could you slander me like this? I turned and walked away, but Anna stopped me, grabbing my arm so tightly it hurt. I'm sure my arm was bruised. Leo, either you apologize or we break up, she said. I was furious. I shook her hand off, went back to the Sterling house and told Robert, pack my things. I'm moving out. Robert was our family's housekeeper. He had worked for us for many years, taking care of me since I was a child. After my parents passed away, I brought him with me when I moved into the Sterling house. Robert looked at me and gently tried to reason with me. Young master, it's just an apology. I'm sorry is only 3 words. That's right. I'm sorry, just 3 words. But I will never say them for something I didn't do. The next day, #LeoKellerCampusBully was trending. Henry had filmed a video from the hospital, live streaming it. He tearfully claimed that I had cut his hair, scratched his face, shoved him into a toilet, and locked him in the bathroom. He showed the hospital's injury report. All I wanted was an apology, but he's too stingy to even say sorry. My social media account, which had only a handful of followers, suddenly exploded overnight. They were all there to curse me out. Some people followed me just to send DMs, the messages filled with vile insults, as if I had bullied them personally. My entire life was dug up and put on display. For example, the fact that my parents had both died in a car crash when I was 16. Many people used this to attack me, saying it was karma for my evil deeds, that my parents were paying the price. My classmates started to shun me. Even the people I used to be friendly with looked at me strangely, with a mix of curiosity and ill intent. I overheard someone say, "Leo Keller? Does he really think he's some rich heir? Turns out his family went bankrupt a long time ago. His parents are dead, so why isn't he dead yet?" Exactly. I also heard that he's taking advantage of the fact that the eldest daughter of the Sterling family likes him, clinging to her and not letting her get married, or even date. Apparently, he drove away one of her potential boyfriends. So shameless. There were rumors and malicious gossip, mixed with private details I never wanted anyone to know. It made me question the true motives of the person pulling the strings behind the scenes. I kept waiting for Anna to get the topic taken down, waiting for the Sterling Group's PR team to do something. But nothing. Anna and I were in a cold war. The last time she called me, it was just to tell me to apologize. I swallowed the bitter pill and asked her, "Do you really think I'm capable of something like that? After all these years of knowing me, is that the kind of person you think I am?" On the other end of the line, she laughed coldly. "Leo, aren't you exactly that kind of person?" The call ended. Henry came to find me, probably afraid of leaving a trail by calling or texting. So he came in person. "Leo, have you figured out how you're going to apologize yet? Why did you have to make such a big deal out of this? Just get on your knees and apologize and we can put this behind us. Otherwise," he leaned in close, his smile arrogant and unrestrained, and I, defeated, took a step back. My refusal to apologize finally pushed Anna over the edge. She used the Sterling Group's influence to pressure the school, demanding my expulsion. It was only then that I remembered. The Sterling Group had shares in the school I attended. She could easily get someone who knew nothing about art, who couldn't even hold a paintbrush properly, into the school. And I had gotten in on my own merit. Now she was trying to use her money to kick me out. My Anna seemed to have changed. She had become hysterical, willing to do anything to get what she wanted. And I, it seemed, didn't love her as much anymore. I hired a lawyer and reported it to the police. There was no reason for me to be slandered and framed, and then be expected to apologize and pay compensation. What I didn't expect was for my aunt to rush back from abroad. I didn't even know she was coming until her private jet landed at the Boston airport. I was furious. Why did she always have to drag my aunt into our fights? Even though I knew her motives were malicious, when had she become so detestable? These past few days, the internet had been filled with insults directed at me, even targeting my relatives and friends. The insults were vulgar, dragging my ancestors through the mud. I had managed to keep my anger in check. But now I was about to lose it. Grief and rage battled within me. The flower of love was slowly being consumed by flames. Anna was planning a dinner to welcome Valerie. My aunt refused. That evening, she came straight to my place. Her bodyguard went out and bought food, covering every inch of the dining table. A quick glance told me it was all my favorite dishes. Valerie and I talked mostly about my childhood. My memories from before the age of 3 were hazy, but my aunt's were crystal clear. She said she was only a teenager then and had no idea how to handle a soft, cuddly little boy. I watched her smile. The warm light of the dining room cast a gentle glow on her. Valerie was beautiful, with a refined elegance and the gentle grace of an Eastern woman. "Leo, I can invest. It's just money." My aunt laughed mockingly. "Anything that can be solved with money isn't really a problem." I looked up at her and asked, "How much does she want this time?" 500 million, my aunt said with a small smile. "And the 5% stake I have in the Seaport project. It's fine." I thought for a moment before asking, "Aunt Valerie, this isn't just a business deal. If we give in this time, what about next time?" "Aunt Valerie, you don't have enough money for that." Valerie looked at me, her face full of worry. "Leo, what are you going to do?" Truth be told, this is how these family mergers always work. It's always about restructuring assets. I thought about her question seriously. Back when I was 18, I was naive and clueless. When my aunt came to negotiate, she treated it as a pre-merger discussion. But Anna wouldn't agree, and the terms of the contract were incredibly harsh. It made my aunt furious, but Anna used me to wrap her around her little finger. I wanted to tell my aunt that we weren't even blood relatives. Why should she put up with the Sterling Group's nonsense for my sake? I sighed softly. I don't know when I started sighing, when I learned about melancholy, or when I started using little tricks of my own. Maybe I was just growing up. Aunt Valerie, it's okay. I'll seek legal protection. I didn't bully him, but the fact that he twisted the truth and cyberbullied me is undeniable. He's gonna have to pay a price for that. I didn't like Henry at all, so I had been planning a countermove from the beginning. I used to be a bit naive, protected too well by my parents. But the person I loved with all my heart was forcing me to grow up by exploiting my love. Ever since that day Henry pretended to kneel and frame me at my bedroom door, I had become more cautious. I started carrying a recording pen with me everywhere. I was waiting for him to post his little video, waiting for his tearful, slanderous tell-all post. Every share, every like, and every hateful comment online was irrefutable evidence of his crime. As I spoke, Valerie just looked at me. "Leo, it's not like that," she said. "Then what is it like?" I retorted. "My recording isn't enough proof?" Valerie smiled faintly. "What about your love?" My love? I was a little lost. The fertile ground of my heart seemed to be lacking fertilizer and nutrients. The flower of love was withering away before it even had a chance to bloom. "Leo, Henry isn't the root of the problem," Valerie told me. I needed to solve the root problem. But that was my love, my lifelong dream. I once thought it was my safe harbor. I lowered my head and was silent for a long time before I finally said, "I know she's the source of the problem. Family mergers, they're all the same. Scheming to get the biggest piece of the pie for yourself. In a situation like this, if love isn't just some romantic game, it's a weight on the scales." Valerie nodded, then shook her head. She raised her wine glass to me with an elegant grace. I chuckled. "People have to grow up eventually. Aunt Valerie, I'm not giving in." She said softly, "Good. We won't give in." I looked at her. In the lamplight, she was graceful and beautiful. In some ways, she was even more stunning than Anna, as exquisite as a fairy tale princess. "Aunt Valerie, thank you," I said in a low voice. She smiled noncommittally, but a flicker of disappointment crossed her eyes, a hint of sadness at the corners of her mouth. I'm a sensitive person, and I pick up on subtle emotions. I kind of understood what she meant. So, I lowered my eyes and said no more. "Leo, have you ever considered just getting rid of the source of the trouble?" Valerie asked suddenly. Out of the blue, I put my hand on my chest. My heart was pounding uncomfortably, and a strange panic set in. A deep-seated fear was spreading, creeping through me. "If it's just about dating, you could consider someone else," Valerie said, her eyes clear and bright, like a blue lake under a spring sun. But they held a certain depth. "If you don't mind the age gap, I'm available too," she said. The unexpected confession shattered the carefully constructed defenses around my heart. All my guards were down, thanks to Anna's betrayal. I took a deep breath, about to speak. But then Valerie said, "Leo, I'm sorry, She wasn't good at apologizing." I smiled, reached out, and hugged her. "Aunt Valerie, give me some time," I said softly. "I can't leave right now. If I, Leo Keller, walk away now, Anna will haunt me for the rest of my life. This game of love between us, I have to be the one to end it, not her." Valerie smiled. She said she didn't understand the romantic dramas of young men, but she could give me a home warm and prosperous. My family's legal team sprang into action. Our PR team got to work, too. My 2 recordings were posted online, and our PR team hired someone to write a tell-all post. It detailed how Henry had orchestrated the whole thing, painting himself as the victim and launching a cyberbullying campaign against me. Our PR team also accused Anna of playing both sides. On one hand, she wanted a family merger, playing the loving girlfriend with me. On the other, she was indulging in Henry's gentle, handsome, and attentive nature, a classic cheater. It seemed that only then did people realize that I came from a wealthy, powerful family. Not some helpless orphan. Not someone living off the charity of the Sterling family. My legal team was relentless, taking Henry straight to court. Valerie was still in Boston. She didn't do much, just used a bit of her financial power. Slander, cyberbullying. Henry was facing jail time. Anna was completely blindsided by this. I had given her no warning. When Valerie arrived, she only said she was there to discuss the investment. Nothing else, which led Anna to believe she still had everything under control. By the time she realized what was happening, it was too late. She asked to meet with me. We hadn't seen each other since I moved out of the Sterling house. I used to think I couldn't live without her. After all, when my parents first died, I was traumatized by the accident. My memories and mind were a mess. My only support was this childhood friend, this older sister I adored. I couldn't be away from her for a moment. If I didn't see her, I would become anxious. At that time, she was so afraid that the trauma would leave a lasting psychological scar that she even took me to work with her. That was also why my Aunt Valerie didn't insist on taking me away from her. Now, after just a few short years, I no longer depended on her. In fact, when I moved out of the Sterling house, she didn't even see me off. She never even asked where I had moved to. And now, for Henry's sake, she was asking to meet me at a Michelin star restaurant. Leo, this is all just a misunderstanding. Why do you have to make such a big deal out of it? If it's convenient, could you ask Ms. Lin to join us for dinner? I laughed coldly, my voice dripping with sarcasm. My aunt doesn't get paid to eat with people. With that, I hung up. When I saw Anna again in the private room, I suddenly felt like she was a complete stranger. The toxic weed that had once filled my heart seemed to have been sprayed with poison, slowly turning yellow. Leo, have a seat. Anna, as always, pulled out a chair for me and put a hand on my shoulder. I sat down and watched her take a seat opposite me. She told me about the restaurant's menu, about the chef, and even hired a violinist to perform. But she seemed to have forgotten. I don't like the violin and I don't eat beef. Even though the steak at this restaurant was supposedly excellent. After a lot of beating around the bush, though I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, I finally understood what she was getting at. Anna, what you're saying is, Henry is still young, and I should drop the charges and give him a second chance? Hearing this, Anna nodded. Leo, you're grown up now. Don't be so willful and bratty like you were when you were little. Willful? Bratty? When Henry framed me for bullying, wrote his little sob story, and cyberbullied me, she acted like nothing had happened. She used public opinion to force me to apologize, to admit I was wrong. She manipulated my love for her to pressure my aunt into investing and to demand her shares. Anna, who do you really think I am? I asked. If she liked Henry, she shouldn't have been stringing me along, keeping things ambiguous. If she liked me, as she had promised, to be with me and only me, to protect me and keep me safe for the rest of my life, then why did she keep scheming against me? Hearing this, Anna frowned and deliberately asked, Leo, do you really not understand what's in my heart? I really didn't. The adult world was too complicated. In the end, Anna and I parted on bad terms. As I was leaving the restaurant, she suddenly hugged me and whispered, Leo, let's stop fighting. Move back in. The doors of the Sterling house will always be open for you. She still had that pleasant sandalwood scent, but it was mixed with a hint of gardenia. The sandalwood was no longer pure. Gardenias have a strong scent of their own when they bloom. They tolerate nothing else. The combination was strange, and it made my senses recoil. I gently pushed her away. Anna, thank you for taking care of me, I said slowly, but I'm grown up now. My last name is Keller, not Sterling. I thought I had made myself clear. Anna started to take action, deleting posts and getting topics removed from the trending lists online. But it was a little too late. Everything Henry had done was exposed. The story of him orchestrating a bullying incident against himself became a joke. For outsiders, it was just a bit of gossip to laugh at. But for those involved, like my classmates and our mutual friends, including Anna's own circle, everyone started to shun and avoid Henry. because no one knew when this drama queen would suddenly decide to drag you into one of his little plays, and then accuse you of bullying him, the poor, disadvantaged boy. Henry was ostracized at school. The same way everyone had ostracized me, they now ostracized him. Some of the people who had insulted me before started to apologize, and some even started to cautiously suck up to me. I found it all incredibly sad. I, who had lived in a fairy tale world, in an ivory tower, had now stepped out of it on my own, to face this chaotic, murky world. The Sterling Group's legal team contacted my family's lawyers. This time, it was no longer just my personal battle. Finally, when my lawyer, Mr. Smith, came to see me, I received him in the living room. "Young master, let's drop the lawsuit. We've achieved our goal," he said, taking a sip of his tea. "It's not worth going to war with the Sterling Group over someone like Henry." Mr. Smith was 47 and had handled all sorts of cases. He had once done cleanup work for a corporation, been a white-collar fixer. He had seen the darkest and dirtiest parts of humanity. To him, this whole Henry affair was nothing. His job was to get the best possible outcome for his client. "Young master, Henry just had some unrealistic ideas. He was trying to drive a wedge between you and Miss Sterling. But Miss Sterling would never marry him. In these family mergers, it's not unheard of for a woman to want a gentle, handsome, and attentive boy for a change of pace." Mr. Smith cut straight to the heart of the matter. It was only then that I realized everyone knew that I, Leo Keller, was in love with Anna. Even Mr. Smith didn't want to fight a battle that would hurt both sides. In his mind, an insignificant third party could be dealt with in countless ways later on. There was no need to suffer unnecessary losses over him. "Then let's listen to Mr. Smith." "Drop the lawsuit," I said softly. "To be honest, I don't understand these things," I added. Mr. Smith smiled. "Young master, if you understood everything, what would you need us for?" He finished his tea, stood up, and left. And so the Henry affair came to an end. Anna came to my house to pick me up, sweet-talking me, trying to coax me to come back. She apologized, saying she had misunderstood, that she didn't know Henry had such schemes. "Leo, don't hold it against him. He just has a crush on me. I'm not interested in him. I've just been sponsoring him for a long time. You develop a certain attachment." I called her out on her lie. "Anna, you're not the one sponsoring him. Your mother is." Henry was some kind of relative of Mrs. Sterling's, though not a blood relative. And it was true what he said. His family played favorites. His parents and elders all doted on his younger brother. But he had been incredibly handsome since he was a child. Mrs. Sterling, who had no sons of her own, took a liking to him and gave his family some money. Then, she arranged for him to be raised by one of her relatives. He lived like that for over a decade, and as he grew up, he became even more handsome. Anna saw him once and was immediately smitten. And so, Henry was brought into the Sterling household. Since I had used my family's network to investigate, I had naturally uncovered Henry's entire background. Hearing me say this, Anna reached out and pinched my nose, laughing. "Can't hide anything from you. My mother is quite fond of him, and I see him as a brother, too." I vaguely remembered Anna telling Mr. Peterson that she saw me as a brother, too. So, how many good brothers did she have? In the past, if I had found out that Anna had deceived me, I would have been furious. Today, I wasn't angry at all. It was as if a stranger was standing in front of me, talking about strange things. I touched my chest. Where had the once burning love gone? Anna reached out and pulled me into an embrace, her tone affectionate. "You little jealous thing, don't be angry." A sudden panic washed over me. Why wasn't I angry? I should be angry, even Anna thought I was angry. "Leo, move back in," she said, and then ordered Robert to pack my things. I broke free from her embrace, pushing her away to create a little distance between us. Not too far, not too close. I could still smell the gardenia scent on her. It lingered in the air, and in the depths of her eyes, I saw the threads of affection. But I looked into my heart, and the flowers that had once covered its walls were quietly withering. Was there something wrong with me? I was suddenly terrified. "Leo, what is it you want?" Anna asked, frowning. "Anna, We're grown up now, I said, lowering my eyes, choosing my words carefully. When did talking to her become such a deliberate, calculated act? Love is like an ocean. It sweeps you away, and there's nowhere to hide. But once you mix other things into love, it's like day-old tea. Even if you put it in the fridge, it still has a stale taste. Give me some time, and give yourself some time too. Even if it's a merger, we're talking about a lifetime. We need to find the right partner. She seemed angry. Fine, have it your way, she snapped, and with a flick of her sleeve, she was gone. My aunt also said her goodbyes. The presidential election in the U.S. was over and she needed to make a trip there. She had 2 companies going public and other business to attend to. Before she left, she asked if I had considered studying abroad. I smiled and told her, after I've sorted out my affairs here. She nodded with a smile. I don't know when love became a burden, one of my affairs to sort out. I used to never care about business. But I had no choice. Anna had forced me to care, to look, to understand. My CEO, Emily, told me that the Sterling family was facing problems both internally and externally. Although my aunt had invested in the Seaport project, she had taken equity and had her own project team in the country. The Sterling family couldn't touch the funds from the Seaport project, and their own cash flow was in trouble. They were patching things up here and there. They desperately needed a capital injection. The best way, of course, was for Anna to marry into another family, bringing in the husband's assets and restructuring the 2 families' finances. But the Sterling family, Anna, wanted to maintain absolute control. That's why my aunt had been so furious about the Seaport project deal. Of course, Anna had considered other options, but none of them had worked out, and now time was running out. Young master, you can't be foolish, Emily said, holding a laptop and pushing up her gold-rimmed glasses. She had brought her entire team with her to talk to me. Before the old chairman passed away, he told me to take good care of you. I laughed sarcastically. I'm not foolish. After my parents passed away, Emily had been managing the Keller family's businesses. She was the CEO of the Keller Group, holding real power. But if I let love cloud my judgment and brought my shares and money to let Anna marry into my family, if Anna took control of the Keller Group, Emily would be just a minority shareholder. No one in power wants to be subordinate to someone else. I didn't understand these complexities before. These past few days, my aunt had been trying to teach me. Emily, I know. Money is important and so is equity. Don't worry. With my reassurance, Emily and her team finally left. I understood what she meant. It was advice, but it also had a hint of a power play. The situation with Anna and me was already what it was. Even if I wanted to get married, it would be a few years yet as I got older. After a few years of navigating the real world, I would naturally come to understand money and power. Now Anna was pushing, and my young heart was stirring. Love was like a toxic weed, spreading through my heart. They were all afraid that if I made a foolish mistake, it wouldn't just be the end of the Keller Group, but the end of their fortunes as well. The same evening Emily left, Anna's mother came to see me. I served her tea in the living room. No matter what had happened between Anna and me, she was still an elder. She made small talk, chatting about everyday life. I just listened, chiming in when appropriate. Leo, why don't you move back in with us? No matter how she beat around the bush, once the pot of tea was empty, she finally got to the point. I smiled, picked up the teapot and made a fresh pot. Mrs. Sterling, I was young and foolish before, and with my parents' sudden passing, I caused you a lot of trouble. Anna was right. I'm grown up now, and since Mr. Johnson and I can't seem to get along, it's better for me to move out. That way, we won't ruin the friendship between our 2 families. I put a little extra emphasis on the words our 2 families. Mrs. Sterling sighed, put down her teacup and said, Leo, I know how you feel. We were thinking that since you're still young, we would wait until after you graduate from college to talk about marriage. But now that you and Anna are in this situation, the rumors are getting ugly. They're saying you and Henry are fighting over Anna, that you even became a trending topic. Anna was afraid you'd be embarrassed, so she's been hiding it from you. Why don't I find someone to pick a good date, and we can get you 2 engaged first? I was the victim of cyberbullying. How did I suddenly become the guy fighting with another guy over a woman? Where did this rumor even come from? If such a rumor was really spreading, the person behind it had malicious intentions. When love falls into the mud, it's no longer love. No wonder princes and princesses only exist in fairy tales. In the face of money and power, everyone becomes hideous, and the world is full of thorns. So I refused Mrs. Sterling. Mrs. Sterling, while rumors can be damaging, I'm not going to gamble my future and my love on them. Mrs. Sterling was furious. She shot up from her seat, losing her composure. The sudden movement knocked over a teacup on the table. Tea splashed everywhere. "Leo, don't be foolish," she said, her chest heaving with anger. Rumors, slander, defamation, constant pressure, and finally a proposal of engagement. When I refused, she called me foolish. "Mrs. Sterling, I have things to do, so I can't entertain you any longer." My smile was sweet and polite, but my tone was cold as I showed her the door. After I left the Sterling house, I would still occasionally run into Henry at school. But I always avoided him. Such a two-faced person, a complete waste of a handsome face. Although our school was an art school, the faculty was excellent. Henry came from an ordinary background. He had this amazing opportunity, but he didn't cherish it. He didn't use his youth to learn something useful. Instead, he wasted his time on pointless things. Half a year flew by. Anna had apologized to me. Even though I didn't live at her house anymore, she often came to see me, telling me how much she missed me. Mrs. Sterling also came to see me often, apologizing and no longer mentioning marriage. She even said to me, "Leo, dear, I was wrong last time. I didn't consider your feelings. You're still young after all. We can't rush into a lifelong commitment." "Sigh, I was just anxious. Your sister Anna is getting older, you know." I smiled understandingly. Several times, the words were on the tip of my tongue, but I swallowed them. I wanted to tell her, if Anna really likes Henry, why not just get them engaged? But alas, I had loved Anna for so many years. Even though I knew the road ahead was difficult, and that marrying her might not bring me happiness, perhaps sensing my hesitation and reservations, in the fall of my 19th year, the golden leaves of the ginkgo trees covered the city. The autumn sun was warm and bright. It was a season of harvest. Anna came to pick me up from school. In the car, she said to me, "Leo, I was wrong before. I shouldn't have brought up our engagement at a time like this. I understand why you were put off. Don't worry. Once the Sterling family gets through this crisis, I'll have my mother go to your family to formally propose. And we'll invite your aunt back, too." Her words were so eloquent, as if her every thought was for my benefit. If I were my old self, I would have immediately asked her, "What kind of trouble is the Sterling Group in? How much money do you need?" Even if I couldn't use the company's money, I would have sold off the Keller family's fixed assets and used some of the funds from my Swiss bank account. After all, back then, my heart was overflowing with love for her. It was like a net I couldn't escape from. To me, money was just a material possession. How could I let my Anna suffer for the sake of a little money? But unfortunately for her, the toxic weed of love in my heart had already withered. I recently reread some fairy tales. The prince and princess are happy, of course. But even in fairy tales, the shadow of royalty and wealth is everywhere. Cinderella was born into a noble family, the eldest daughter of an earl. I lowered my gaze and smiled gently. "Okay, I'll be waiting for you, Anna." Anna's hands tightened on the steering wheel, her knuckles turning white. Her face looked pale. I couldn't help but clench my own fist. "Anna, you can drop me off up ahead," I said. "The weather is nice today. I'll walk." Hearing this, Anna didn't say another word. She pulled over to the side of the road and watched me get out. Then, she slammed on the gas, and the Porsche sped away, leaving a cloud of dust behind. In the past, she would have anxiously told me not to mess around outside and to come home early. People grow up. Love gets conquered by money. Everything starts to taste different. That Friday, as I was leaving school, Henry stopped me at the gate. "What is it?" I asked him. He put on his usual pathetic act. looking like he was on the verge of death. Anna is busy today. Mr. Keller, can I get a ride with you? He asked. I refused him outright. Mr. Keller, please don't be like that. He quickly reached out to grab me. I shook my head. Mr. Johnson, has no one ever told you that the scent of white flowers can be nauseating? Gardenias are beautiful flowers, but gardenia-scented perfume is a classic white floral, and many people find it overwhelming. I was no exception. Anna was too. Hearing this, Henry froze for a moment. Then he bit his lower lip and looked at me with big, wet, doe-like eyes. I want to talk to you, he said stubbornly. This time, I turned and walked away without another word. But I had underestimated Henry's shamelessness. That evening, he came to my house. Even though I despised him, I didn't turn him away. I invited him into my art studio. I was painting. Watching me so engrossed in my work, Henry suddenly asked, Leo, does anyone actually buy your paintings? Every year, art schools in this country accept so many students. And that's not even counting the top international schools. But in the end, only a few ever become successful enough to have their own exhibitions. What's the point of you trying so hard? I thought for a moment before replying, I don't study art and paint to become famous and have exhibitions. It's just a hobby. I'm not really good at anything else. I've never been a particularly smart person. Henry scoffed. So you're just wasting paint and paper creating garbage. I didn't get angry. I smiled. When I was 15, there was a small charity gala. Everyone knows how those things work. You bring something from home and then you buy it back. The money goes to charity. Some celebrities even auction off their personal belongings. It's all just for publicity. I paused, remembering a time when my parents were still alive, when I never had to worry about such things. A calm, serene smile appeared on my face. Henry didn't understand and couldn't resist another jab. I ignored him and continued. My father asked my mother what we should auction off. My mother said, let's just take one of my paintings from the studio. Henry sneered. Leo, you accuse me of orchestrating things, but what do you call this? Paying for your own hype? I laughed coldly. You orchestrated a scheme to frame someone. We created our own hype, but the money went to help poor students like you. The two are fundamentally different. At the time, my father was worried that if he was the only one bidding, it would be embarrassing for me. So he asked a few of his friends to bid as well. This sort of thing happens all the time at charity auctions. It's nothing special. But something unexpected happened during the auction. The starting bid for my painting was a bit high, $2 million. So, apart from my father's friends and Anna, no one else was expected to bid. But just as my father thought he was about to win the auction, someone else jumped in. The painting ended up selling for $12 million, bought by a wealthy businesswoman from Southeast Asia. I said, she wasn't one of my father's friends. Afterward, my father looked into it. The businesswoman said she absolutely loved it, that it was love at first sight. Since it was for charity, what was a few extra million? When she found out I was the artist, she even invited me to dinner and we exchanged contact information. She said that if I ever had an exhibition, I had to invite her. She never asked if I was selling any more of my paintings because everyone knew that for people like us, it was just a hobby. We didn't make a living from it. But after that, I gained some recognition in certain niche art circles. Not long after, my parents passed away, and I didn't pick up a paintbrush for a long time. I spoke calmly about the past, but Henry completely lost it. He pointed at me and started yelling, Leo, who are you kidding? 12 million for that piece of crap? Do you think I'm an idiot? Normally, I wouldn't have understood why he was so agitated, so indignant. But now I did. He couldn't accept that I was more talented than him, richer than him, and more cultured. I certainly wasn't going to get into a shouting match with him. I just felt sorry for him. Leo, I'm telling you, all your efforts are futile, Henry said, lifting his chin. After getting his emotions under control, he told me in a sharp tone. Anna has confirmed that she can't have children. And I, my ex-girlfriend, Sarah, and I have a child. She needs an heir, and I can give her a complete family. She's planning to get engaged to me. The paintbrush fell from my hand, knocking over a pot of red paint. A A splash of crimson bloomed on the carpet. In that moment, I was completely lost. I remembered what Mrs. Sterling had said, what Anna had said. I looked at the handsome, well-built man in front of me, called for Robert, and asked him to show our guest out. He pulled an invitation out of his bag and threw it on the floor. From now on, Anna is a married woman. I hope Mr. Keller won't be so shameless as to keep clinging to her. After Henry left, I called my professor to check on my study abroad application. My professor told me that all the paperwork was basically done. I thanked him and then called my aunt. "Aunt Valerie, I'm getting ready to come to Singapore," I said. My aunt seemed overjoyed. I thought for a moment before adding, "Aunt Valerie, you said you wanted me to be the master of the Keller estate. Does that offer still stand?" It does, my aunt said eagerly. "Leo, can you please call me by my name? I'm only a few years older than you. Don't keep calling me Aunt Valerie." I smiled and tried it out. "Valerie?" After her initial excitement, Valerie quickly calmed down. "Leo, what happened?" she asked urgently. "Are you okay? Did she give you a hard time?" I laughed and told her, "Of course not. I just figured things out on my own." "Aunt Valerie, love shouldn't be like this, full of schemes and constant anxiety, always worrying about losing the other person. It's too exhausting. So, I'd rather not have that kind of love." Emily told me the Sterling Group is on its last legs. They've had 3 board meetings in 1 week. All the shareholders are questioning Anna's competence. They want her to transfer her shares and compensate them for their losses. They want to replace the CEO. I paused, then said with a hint of annoyance, "Aunt Valerie, you're being sneaky. You have a team in Boston. You knew all of this, didn't you?" Hearing my grumpy tone, Valerie stammered over the phone, "Leo, no, I do have a team in Boston, and I know about the Sterling family's situation. But I didn't know what she was planning. My dear Leo, please tell me what's going on." Thinking about it made me angry again. I talked to Emily. I told her that if the Sterling Group just needed a loan to get by, as long as it was a manageable amount, I was willing to lend them the money. After all, my parents were close with the Sterling family. And I've called her my sister for so many years. After my parents died, she was the first one to comfort and stay with me. At first, Emily was hesitant. She tried to convince me that any money lent would be lost. But I insisted. But Anna had to play games with my love, humiliate me, and trap me. Even though my heart was overgrown with that toxic weed, my head was still clear enough. After I had mentally prepared myself and even convinced Emily to agree, Anna threw a curveball. Henry showed up with his child, and she was getting engaged to him. I knew what she was trying to do, because I loved her. Love made me lose myself. She had used my devotion to her to secure the investment for the Seaport project from my aunt. Then, she used Henry to provoke my rebellious side, to make me as jealous as possible. I had thrown tantrums, complained. I had cried and laughed, been heartbroken, disappointed, and confused. This time, by announcing her engagement to Henry, she wanted me to cause a scene, to cry, to beg her, to humbly confess my love for her. Since I was 16, I had confessed my love to her many times, and every time she accepted it. But she never took it seriously. In her eyes, I was just a spoiled, willful little boy who was hopelessly in love with her, easy to manipulate. Even in a family merger, she wanted to maintain absolute control. As for my feelings for her, they didn't matter. What are feelings in a family merger? I told Valerie everything. She laughed for a long time on the phone. "Leo, what is she trying to do?" "Aunt Valerie, we used to play house when we were kids. This is just a more advanced version of that." Valerie laughed. "Kind of seems like it. But isn't she afraid it'll backfire?" I also wanted to know, wasn't Anna afraid it would backfire? But after 3 years of living together, she was confident that she knew me, understood me, and could control me. Even after I moved out of the Sterling house, she always thought I was just pouting. I started preparing to go to Singapore. My luggage was one thing, but I was reluctant to leave Robert. After all, he had taken care of me since I was a child. If I asked him to come with me, I'm sure he would have agreed. But his whole family was here. At his age, I couldn't just drag him to a foreign country with me. Finally, on Valerie's advice, I asked for Robert's opinion. To my surprise, he was overjoyed. He said he had never been to Singapore. "Young master, when you get married in Singapore and have children, I'll help you take care of them for a few years, and then I'll come back," he said with a smile. I hugged him and laughed. "Robert, by then, you won't just be attached to me, you'll be attached to the kids, too." The wrinkles on his face crinkled with laughter. What I didn't expect was that, even though I was ready to leave, and the invitations for Anna and Henry's engagement had already been sent out, I thought Anna and I would go our separate ways and never see each other again. But Henry still had to stir up trouble. He tearfully told a reporter, "I was wrong before, and I apologized to Leo Keller. But Anna and I are in love." He interfered, and I couldn't stand it. I went a little too far. "Now we have a child, and we're getting engaged. I'm begging you, Mr. Keller, can you please have some boundaries and stop clinging to my Anna?" This time it was a press release, not one of his little videos. The news of Anna's engagement, courtesy of Henry, spread like wildfire. Anna played along, telling the public that she was afraid I would ruin her engagement party, so she had arranged for me to go study in Singapore. I'm getting engaged, and Leo is grown up now. We need to keep our distance to avoid any misunderstandings. So, I'm sending Leo to study in Singapore. He shouldn't come back. As she said this, she looked at the camera, wrapped her arms around Henry, and kissed him deeply. But in the depths of her eyes, I saw a chilling coldness, a confession filled with conspiracy. Even under the bright sun, in front of everyone, was still dark and terrifying. My relatives and friends started to comfort me, like Mr. Peterson, who had been ready to chip in for my wedding, and old Mr. Williams. But this time, even my family's legal team and Emily were angry. Was this a blatant accusation that I was knowingly the other man? That I was shamelessly clinging to Anna? Just because I had once loved Anna, now I was being painted as the third party, whether I was or not. It's like that old saying, "Mud in your pants might not be shit, but it smells just as bad." My PR team asked me if I wanted to do some damage control. I laughed and told them, of course we do, but not now. Without telling Anna, I moved up my flight and left for Singapore with Robert. Anna. The first time Anna saw Leo, he was only 5 years old. She was 14. Leo always said that the first time he confessed his love to her was on his 16th birthday. But he had actually confessed to her when he was just 5. A tiny little boy, like a little ball of sticky rice, with a neat haircut and a handsome little suit. He had picked a blade of wild grass from the side of the road. It was autumn, and the grass was tough. He couldn't pull it out and started crying in frustration. Anna didn't understand what was so fascinating about a blade of grass. But since Leo wanted it, she casually picked one for him. Leo took the blade of grass and started weaving it in his hands. Somehow, he managed to make a ring. He slipped the ring onto Anna's finger. "You're so pretty, Anna. When I grow up, I'm going to marry you." He was clueless, but Anna was old enough to understand, and she blushed bright red. The adults were all smiling, and Anna's mother was laughing, her eyes crinkling. She even teased him about it. At the time, Anna was a little angry. She didn't think her mother should be joking about something like that. She threw a huge tantrum when she got home. Normally, if Anna threw a tantrum, her mother would drop the subject. She usually respected her daughter's wishes. But on this one thing, Anna found that even when she got angry, even when she repeatedly reminded her mother that Leo was just a child, and they shouldn't be making jokes like that. Later, Anna's schoolwork became more demanding, and she saw less of Leo. But during the winter and summer breaks, she still loved to coax the little boy from next door out to play. She took him to the amusement park, bought him new clothes, and patiently helped him with his homework. She grew up and he grew up too. The year Leo turned 16, she was 25. Her father died in an accident. It was only after his death that she found out he had been keeping a mistress and had a son and a daughter with her. The woman showed up at the funeral, demanding a share of the inheritance and for her children to be officially recognized. The Sterling Group was in financial trouble, and vultures were circling. At home, her father's mistress was causing a scene every day. The woman had hired a lawyer and was threatening to sue. She was filming videos, writing tell-all posts. Anna said nothing. She took charge of the company, and her methods were ruthless. The Sterling Group was hers, and no one was going to get a piece of it at a time like this. She swiftly eliminated the obstacles, but in doing so, she clashed with the company's old board members. Because of her father's mismanagement, the company had serious financial problems when she took over. Anna had no choice but to approach the Keller family. After all, they had been friends since they were children. Mr. Keller said he would think about it. Anna understood. As the head of the Keller family, he needed to do an asset valuation, a risk assessment, and an assessment of her. She had thought that even with the assessment, it would be fine. But then, a car crash took the lives of Mr. and Mrs. Keller. Only Leo survived, but he was like a frightened kitten, anxious and insecure. Anna was very worried. She was afraid he would be left with a permanent psychological scar. During that time, she stayed with him at the hospital every day, and he needed to see her the moment he opened his eyes. If he didn't, he would become extremely agitated. It was also during this time that Anna met Valerie. The woman was graceful, beautiful, and exuded an air of nobility. A distant relative of Leo's, and she wanted to take him away? Anna was furious. But her mother told her that this was an opportunity, their opportunity, the Sterling family's opportunity. They had to keep Leo no matter what. By exploiting Leo's dependence on her, Anna successfully captured the heart of the naive young boy, leaving her image imprinted on his mind. She brought him to live in her home, and they were together day and night. There's a saying, the one closest to the water gets the moon first. 6 months later, Leo finally began to recover from the trauma of his parents' death. But Anna discovered that all of Leo's assets were in a trust that he couldn't touch until he was 18. Property, deeds, shops, savings, funds. And that wasn't all. The Keller family, Emily, the woman Leo called Auntie. After Mr. Keller's death, she became the CEO of the Keller Group. She quickly assembled her own team, and the Keller Group became an impenetrable fortress. Anna could only watch from the outside. That wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was that Emily and the Keller Group's legal and PR teams were constantly on guard, terrified she would corrupt their future boss. At one point, she was so angry that she forbade Leo from seeing anyone from the Keller Group. And the boy was so foolish, so completely devoted to her, that he actually listened. So, by scraping together funds from here and there, Anna managed to keep the Sterling Group afloat. Anna started the Seaport project. To get it off the ground, she needed money, a lot of it. But the old shareholders of the Sterling family, who had issues with her and her father, were unwilling to invest. Those who were willing to invest wanted a controlling stake. Anna ran around trying to secure funding but couldn't. In the end, she had no choice but to turn to Valerie. Valerie wasn't interested in the Seaport project. The only thing that piqued her interest was that the project was in Boston, and her grandnephew was also in Boston. So, she came back with the money. But as soon as Anna started negotiating with her, she realized it was going to be difficult. Valerie was treating the whole thing as a pre-merger deal between her and Leo. She brought her team, her lawyers. The negotiations were excruciating. But in the end, Valerie compromised. Anna could see that her hand was trembling as she signed the papers. In that moment, a long-held frustration finally dissipated. So what if she was the richest woman in Southeast Asia? So what if Valerie was revered and flattered wherever she went? She was in love with Leo and didn't even dare to say it. Fine, even if she did say it, what good would it do? Leo only loved her, Anna. In that moment, she suddenly realized that being loved by Leo came with a lot of hidden benefits. She secretly told her mother that they should find a chance to get them engaged. After all, Leo was still young. He was naive about love and easy to manipulate. But when he got a little older, when he was jaded by money and power, he would become cynical, materialistic, and calculating. If they waited until then to talk about marriage, she might not be able to control him. In the end, it would just be a merger anyway. Her mother scolded her. Leo is love-struck, but are you love-struck, too? Getting engaged means the two families will negotiate a merger. Do you think the CEO of the Keller Group is just a figurehead? Since that boy likes you, you should use it." Her mother laughed sarcastically. Anna felt a pang of sadness. Was she really going to exploit Leo's love for her own gain? Later, she comforted herself. Why was she doing this? Wasn't it so that she could give him a happy and secure life in the future? And so, Anna used flimsy excuses to deceive herself, and to deceive Leo. After the first time she exploited Leo's love, using a harsh contract to trick Valerie into investing, she was ready to do it again. But the boy, who was usually so boisterous and clueless, seemed even more confused. Anna consulted her mother. What should she do? Her mother said that men in love are blind, jealous, and petty. If she was constantly doting on him, he wouldn't feel any sense of urgency. She told Anna to give him the cold shoulder. At the same time, she brought back a young man she had been raising on the side. The first time Anna saw Henry, she couldn't take her eyes off him. The boy was breathtakingly beautiful. Every single feature was exactly to her taste. And most importantly, being with Henry was effortless. She could be completely herself, uninhibited. Henry was gentle and handsome, and he made her the center of his world. In bed, they were perfectly in sync. Anna was very happy. After less than 2 months of dating Henry, she brought him home. She was eager to see the look on Leo's face when he saw Henry. And sure enough, when the boy saw Henry, although he tried to remain calm, his eyes were filled with an undeniable sadness and a hint of anger. Anna thought to herself, her mother really was experienced. To control one boy, you need another boy. Leo came from a wealthy family and had been tutored by the best, so he wouldn't cause a scene. Even when he was angry, he would only take it out on the person closest to him. For example, Anna. But Henry was not that kind of person. It didn't take long for Anna to realize that Henry was very manipulative. He was a master at crying. His tears were like a faucet, he could turn them on whenever he needed to. He was also an expert at playing the victim, always using his vulnerability to manipulate others. Her mother said that she had raised this boy since he was young. He was originally intended to be a check on her future son-in-law. Her mother also said that you have to put pressure on men. You can't let them get arrogant. She repeatedly told Anna that it was fine to spoil Leo now. But after they got married, she couldn't indulge his little tantrums. Bringing Henry into the picture now was just a way to take him down a peg. Henry started causing trouble on his very first day. He claimed that Leo didn't like him and had hit him. Anna knew it wasn't true, but she deliberately put on a cold face and told Leo to apologize. Leo was so angry he slammed his door. Ha! For some reason, Anna was also a little angry. She deliberately got closer to Henry to make Leo even more jealous. She wanted to see his eyes turn red, his voice choke, his hands fumble. And Henry didn't disappoint. He orchestrated a campus bullying incident, complete with a tell-all post and video, and played his part perfectly. He managed to get Leo trending online. Valerie, all the way in Singapore, couldn't sit still any longer. When Anna heard that Valerie was coming to Boston, she almost laughed out loud. God was on her side, making Leo fall in love with her. And her mother had even had the foresight to adopt Henry, a man who brought her both spiritual and physical pleasure. But this time, things seemed to have gone off track. Leo moved out of the Sterling house with Robert. Valerie refused Anna's dinner invitation. And then the Keller group launched a counterattack. Anna had never imagined that Leo had been carrying a recording pen with him all this time. He had recorded everything Henry had done. But he didn't explain, didn't clarify. He just watched as Henry cyberbullied him, gathered his evidence, and then fought back. The Keller Group's legal department started filing lawsuits. Anna couldn't just stand by and watch Henry go to jail. She had no choice but to compromise. Henry was completely defeated. Anna vaguely remembered hearing that artists are usually very patient and calm. Impatient people can't master such delicate work. This seemed to be perfectly demonstrated in Leo. She knew he loved her. The way he looked at her was full of deep affection. But even so, he didn't say a word to her. He just let people laugh at him and slander him. Anna was a little scared. Leo might seem innocent and naive, but he was not easy to control. She felt like she was playing with fire, and sooner or later she was going to get burned. Ever since Leo moved out, Anna had felt an emptiness in her heart, a constant ache. Henry was gentle, attentive, and his unrestrained affection was slowly breaking down her defenses. When Henry told her that his child with his ex-girlfriend, Sarah, could be brought to live at the Sterling house, Anna's first reaction was panic, like a cat caught stealing fish. So, she firmly refused, saying it wasn't necessary. Henry, who had always been so devoted and gentle, disagreed and they had a huge fight. She went to her mother for advice. Ever since her father passed away, she had gotten used to consulting her mother about family matters. That day, after hearing what had happened, her mother thought for a moment and came up with a ruthless plan. At first, Anna was against it. She had a bad feeling about it. But the Sterling family was in trouble, and Leo was the best marriage prospect she could hope for. Unfortunately, the Keller group seemed to have a personal vendetta against her, rejecting and resisting her at every turn. If the Sterling and Keller families merged in the traditional way, the Keller group would demand a controlling stake. No matter how you calculated it, Anna would end up working for them. No, she wanted a controlling stake. She wanted the Keller group to be Leo's dowry. He had to bring the money with him. Her mother also said that this was a good opportunity to see how much Leo really cared for her. If he dared to crash her engagement party, she was confident she could swallow the Keller group whole. Her mother sipped her tea, a gentle, compassionate smile on her face, but her words were cruel. As for Henry's child, let Leo raise him. He needs to pay a price for something. When her mother said this, Anna felt a pang of sadness. The little boy, although grown up now, was still someone who needed to be protected in her eyes. She worried about him constantly since he had moved out. And now they were going to dump a baby that wasn't his on him? To subject him to that kind of humiliation. She felt terrible. A wave of depression washed over her. When Leo was 16, he had confessed his love to her at his birthday party. She hadn't said anything then, but she had silently vowed to protect him for the rest of his life. And now she was scheming against him like this. Her mother knew what she was thinking. Anna, she said calmly, you're almost 30, and that boy is still young. Since you can't have children, and Henry just happens to have a child, isn't this fate? Making Leo accept this child is the best outcome for the Sterling family, and for you. He loves you, he'll accept it, and you won't have to go through the pain of childbirth in the future. It's a win-win, isn't it? If you feel bad for him, you can just be nicer to him in the future. Yes, she could be 100 times, 1,000 times nicer to him in the future. For the sake of the Sterling group, let him suffer a little now. With that thought, Anna went along with her mother's plan. Henry took the invitation and went to cause trouble for Leo. He told him that he had a child and that he and Anna were getting engaged. He pushed and pushed, telling Leo not to be a homewrecker. Anna also put on a heartless act, threatening to send him to Singapore to study. To make it look real, she even did all the paperwork for him to go to Singapore. School transfer documents, passport, everything. Her mother said that at this point, if Leo didn't want to be branded a homewrecker, he only had one option: crash her engagement party and marry her. Once he wanted to marry her, the Sterling family could sit down and talk about the little matter of the dowry. Her mother also said that Leo's parents were dead, and he was the only child. What was he going to do with all that money? Who knew who would end up with it in the future? It was better to invest it in the Sterling group and help the family get through this crisis. During this time, Anna deliberately avoided Leo. The day before yesterday, Leo called her, but she didn't answer. She had to give him the cold shoulder, make him believe that she was really getting engaged to Henry, to provoke his anger and his jealousy, to make him crash the engagement party, to cry, to confront her, to remind her of their promises, of their vows of eternal love. Her mother said she had arranged for reporters to be there, and they would be live streaming. Then, everyone would know that Leo was hopelessly, madly in love with her. Shamelessly in love. As long as Leo was determined to marry her, then neither Emily nor Valerie could do anything about it. The two families' assets would be merged, and she could write the contract however she wanted. The engagement date had been chosen long ago. Even though it was just a game, her mother had still had someone pick an auspicious date. But the day before, which had been a warm winter day, the weather turned. At first, it was just overcast, but then it started to snow. We have a saying where I'm from: rain on the wedding, snow on the coffin. It's a bad omen. Henry was being childish, pouting, demanding this and that. He was even planning his future. For example, after the engagement, he wanted to go to Miami. The winters in Boston were too cold. And after the engagement, he wanted to move into the south-facing room in the Sterling house. He said the south-facing room was bigger and got more sun, which would be better for the child. He even asked Anna if the child was a boy or a girl. Henry was looking through a dictionary, trying to find a name for the baby. He smiled gently. I used to think there was no point in studying, that it was just about learning a few more words. Now I see that it's actually useful. Anna, why do all the names I come up with sound so bad? Why don't you pick a name? Anna was extremely irritated. Don't call me Anna, she snapped. Look at yourself. What are you? Besides Leo, she didn't want anyone else calling her Anna. That day, Henry's eyes turned red. She felt a deep sense of annoyance and impatience. She also forbade Henry from moving into the south-facing room. After all, that had been Leo's room. A week passed in the blink of an eye. Even though it was just for show, Anna's engagement party had all the proper arrangements. They just didn't invite too many people. The Sterling and Keller families had always done business together, so Anna also invited Emily. When the engagement party officially began, Henry, dressed to the nines, clung to her side like a delicate bird. But Leo still hadn't shown up. Anna kept looking towards the hotel entrance, hoping to see his tall figure. It was only then that she finally understood what it meant to gaze with eager expectation. Anna, look at me. Henry could see she was distracted and reached out to make her look at him. He knew who she was waiting for. He also knew that today's engagement party was just a farce for Leo to vent his anger. And he, Henry, was destined to be the tragic clown. But he was so unwilling. Mrs. Sterling had raised him for so many years, only to use him to provoke another boy's rebellious streak. His only purpose was to be another boy's foil. He wanted to tell Anna that the boy wasn't coming today, that he had already left for Singapore. He had taken his housekeeper, his PR team, and the CFO of the Keller Group with him. He had no interest in her engagement party whatsoever. He also wanted to ask Mrs. Sterling. He had heard that some people have an inflated sense of confidence in themselves or their children. What made Anna so confident that Leo would do anything for her? Stop it. For some reason, Anna felt a sense of panic. What if he didn't come? Although her mother had insisted that Leo would come back, she wasn't so sure. She wanted to call him to ask him where he was. So, she impatiently pushed Henry away and pulled out her phone. She wanted to see if her Leo had sent her a message. She typed and deleted and typed a message. Nothing seemed right. For the first time, Anna realized that there might be something wrong with her emotional and intellectual intelligence. Then, she remembered that she had arranged for Leo to go to Singapore today. So, she texted him, "Leo, the weather is bad today. Is your flight delayed?" But after she sent the message, a little red dot appeared. Leo had blocked her. The thought hit her with the force of a physical blow. Her mouth fell open. Henry, who was standing right next to her, saw everything clearly. Leo had kept his promise. He had not only gone to Singapore, but he had also blocked Anna. Seeing Anna's devastated expression, he wanted to laugh. He grinned, but tears streamed down his face. "What are you laughing at?" Anna suddenly exploded, grabbing his thin neck. "Did you say something to him?" Her grip was surprisingly strong. The violence of an adult woman was on full display. Henry had no doubt that she wanted to strangle him. Seeing this, the others rushed to pull them apart. Henry was still smiling. He thought he was going crazy. Love, it really does make you either crazy or stupid. He only liked her for her money. But why, after giving her his body, had he also given her his heart? He clutched his throat, coughing so hard that tears streamed from his eyes. He didn't know if they were from the coughing or the laughing. At the entrance, Emily walked in with two men, carrying a painting. "Miss Sterling, congratulations," she said, beaming. "When he heard you were getting engaged, our young master painted this himself and asked me to deliver it as a gift." Anna tried to suppress all her emotions, but the bitterness and pain were overwhelming. There was every flavor but sweet. "Where's Leo?" she asked. "Miss Sterling, you're so young. How could you be so forgetful?" Emily said deliberately, "You were afraid our young master would ruin your engagement party. So you arranged for him to go to Singapore. Young Master Leo left for Singapore a few days ago. Oh, and by the way, young Master Leo accepted Ms. Lin's proposal. Ms. Lin is overjoyed. She's already had someone pick a date. They say the day after tomorrow is a good day, so they're planning an engagement party. It's a bit of a rush. Our PR department has already gone ahead to start planning. With such a tight schedule, it's really hard for us to get everything done. Miss Sterling, I won't be staying for the celebration. I've booked a flight. I need to get to Singapore immediately." A wave of panic washed over her. Anna felt the world go dark. A sweet taste filled her mouth, and she spat out a mouthful of blood, like a blooming May rose. It should have been sweet, fresh, but why did it taste so rotten? She had a dream. She dreamed of her childhood, of when Leo was 16. When she woke up, she found herself in a hospital bed. Her head was throbbing, as if she had had too much to drink. She must have had too much, she thought. She must be drunk. How could Leo love someone else? Emily was just lying to her. That old woman had always disliked her, as if she would betray Leo. She ripped the 4 from the back of her hand, ignoring the stream of blood that followed. She didn't even put on her shoes. She stumbled out of the room. She had to go to Singapore. She had to find her Leo. "I brought Robert with me to Singapore. At first, I was worried he wouldn't be able to handle the long flight. I had packed motion sickness medicine for him. Fortunately, he fell asleep as soon as we got on the plane. He was very happy, saying that at his age, he was finally getting to see Singapore. To my amusement, the Keller Group's PR department had arrived in Singapore a few days before me. I told them I was here to study and that I had accepted Valerie's proposal. But that didn't require a PR campaign. She had picked a date for an engagement party, and I was fine with it. Love, when it's what your heart desires, should be embraced without hesitation. It's not something to hide. Loving someone is the greatest joy and happiness in the world. I had once openly loved Anna. She had found love with the gentle and handsome Henry, and I sincerely wished them well. She didn't want me at her engagement party, so I didn't go. After all, we had been friends since childhood. There was no need to ruin our friendship over a failed romance. Valerie was someone who hid her feelings very well. Even with my sensitivity to emotions, I had only begun to suspect it in the last couple of years. Now that she had confessed her love and we were getting engaged, I was curious. "Aunt Valerie, when did you start liking me?" To my surprise, this legendary Southeast Asian businesswoman was a complete mess when it came to romance, especially when it came to love. Her ears perked up, the tips turning red. I deliberately mimicked Henry's high-pitched voice and called her Auntie. She giggled like a 17-year-old girl, completely giddy. It was both funny and a little sad. It was only when my family's PR team started making arrangements that I realized. Valerie was Valerie. She was incredibly wealthy. The engagement party was a grand, lavish affair. Many of the richest people in Singapore were attending, and even the royal family was invited. It was being broadcast live worldwide. I started to get nervous. Robert was nervous, too, bustling about. To be honest, I had brought Robert to Singapore for him to retire. I had long considered him family, and he was acting like a father about to marry off his son. So busy he was running off his feet. Suits, watches, styling. The day before the engagement party, Emily rushed over with the Keller Group's team. Acting as the groom's family, she started negotiating projects with my aunt. I don't know what they discussed, but this time it was completely different from Anna's Seaport project. Valerie was beaming. Emily's smile was so wide it almost split her face. Before the engagement party even started, they had secretly opened a bottle of champagne to celebrate behind my back. I suddenly thought, this is what love should be like. Everyone was happy and cheerful, and the air was filled with the scent of roses. The engagement party was exhausting. Afterward, my aunt personally took me to the Royal Academy of Arts here in Singapore to register and enroll. In the blink of an eye, I had been in Singapore for over half a month. Robert told me that Anna had come and wanted to see me. Hearing her name, I felt a strange sense of detachment, as if from another lifetime. I had loved her so much, thought about her constantly. Her name, her image, everything about her had filled my heart completely, leaving no room for anything else. Now, she had withered and decayed in my heart, turning into mulch for new flowers to bloom. But she was no longer one of them. Love is like the tide, comes in fast and goes out just as quickly. When it rushes in, it's a powerful force. When it recedes, it leaves nothing behind. I received her at the Keller estate. When I saw Anna again, I was a little shocked. Was this really my Anna? She was haggard, disheveled, her eyes dull. Even the blazer she was wearing was wrinkled. She reached out to hug me, as she always did, but I quickly stepped away. Leo, I finally found you," she cried out excitedly. "Come back with me. Let's stop fighting." I took a few steps back, putting some distance between us. "Anna, I'm not going back. You're engaged to Henry now, and I'm in love with Valerie. We each have our own happiness. Henry was right. We're grown up now. We need to have some boundaries." Hearing this, Anna stammered, "Leo, it's not like that. I'm not engaged to him, it was just..." "But I am engaged," I cut her off. "No, Leo, how can you love someone else? You love me. It's fake, it's all fake." Anna waved her hands frantically, as if trying to erase the past. She tried to grab my hand again. I pushed her away, my face stern. "Miss Sterling, please have some self-respect." Hearing me call her Miss Sterling, she froze. After a long pause, she let out a roar of anger, pointing at me, her finger trembling. I'm not good at handling these kinds of situations. I thought if I just explained things clearly, it would be fine. Fortunately, Valerie arrived. "Miss Sterling," she said to Anna, "do not harass my fiancé." I saw Anna stumble back, her expression one of pure agony. I didn't understand. She didn't love me. She loved Henry. They even had a child together. Why was she in so much pain? When I loved her, seeing her with Henry was agony. Every withered flower in my heart was stained with my blood. Now that I didn't love her, there was no more pain. Anna stayed in Singapore for 2 days. Dejected, she was about to leave when she came to see me one last time, professing her deep love for me, trying to win me back. I couldn't help but laugh. "Miss Sterling, you never actually loved me. You only loved the money of the Keller Group, my status. Between me and Henry, you preferred him. He's gentle, handsome, and attentive. You two were perfect in bed. Your heart only has room for money and lust. You have no right to talk about love. And don't you dare try to use love to manipulate me, to bully my aunt, or to humiliate Emily again. Anna, whether it's in love or in business, you are a failure. You're truly not worthy." Epilogue. When Anna returned to Boston, she was immediately held accountable by the Sterling Group's board of directors. With me out of the picture, Emily took over the Seaport project and began collaborating with Valerie. A marriage merger inevitably involves the restructuring of assets. The business partnership between the Keller and Lynn families began with the Seaport project in Boston. Of course, Anna was cut out of the deal. The Sterling Group's board also kicked Anna out and filed a joint lawsuit against her. For the company's losses during her tenure, she faced a massive compensation claim. Whether the losses were her fault or her father's didn't matter. What mattered was that the other shareholders wanted their money and their equity, or she would face jail time. So, she sold the Seaport project, liquidated the Sterling family's fixed assets, and so on. After finally appeasing the Sterling Group's shareholders, she was stunned to find that she had almost no assets left to her name. She called me many times, telling me how much she regretted everything, telling me she loved me. But there are no second chances in this world. Even a skinny camel is bigger than a horse. In Henry's eyes, Anna was still a rich woman, still someone he had to climb up to. He urged her to marry him, But after Anna came back from Singapore, she was like a different person. She lost all ambition, drinking heavily every day, never coming home sober. She and Henry fought constantly. They both became sensitive, irritable, and hysterical. Finally, one day when Anna was driving drunk again, Henry started an argument with her over something trivial. Anna mistook the gas pedal for the brake and crashed head-on into a large truck. Henry was killed instantly. Anna suffered a severe head injury, and her right leg had to be amputated. She would have to walk with a prosthetic for the rest of her life. She and her mother also had a huge falling out, and their relationship was ruined. Of course, none of this had anything to do with me anymore. Letting go of my past love, Anna was just a passerby on my journey of growth. I planted many roses at the Keller estate, and they are all in bloom now. The fragrance is rich, and as far as the eye can see, there are flowers of white and gold. All the splendor of the world.